We're back. Episode 4.
We are.
The importance of quality.
Quality.
The importance of quality.
Do you want me to take over?
Yes, please.
The importance of water quality.
Part 2.
Yeah, man.
Thank God you're here.
Yeah, I am. Save your bacon.
Have you left your tools at home this week?
No, they're with me everywhere I go.
They are with you everywhere you go. Yeah. This week is all about hardware. This is where it comes in. Hardware. Just calm down with it. Chill out. Slamming the desk.
What's this anyway?
That's me figurine. Pinky and the brain. What was that for?
I get my figurines out.
What are your figurines? You can't just be putting drills
there. Grinders, toolboxes.
What's a grinder for?
Men's tools, mate.
What's a grinder?
Men's tools, tell them.
As opposed to women's tools?
No. Men's tools and women's tools are all the same. We all use same hammers and drills. That's a kid's toy, mate. What are you doing?
Listen.
See on?
Let's cut to intro before,
let's do that.
Before he starts getting me any more lip.
Science lip.
Right, just before we go behind and start calibrating and cleaning our equipment, I think it's important to go through EC, PPM and CF. Now CF stands for concentration factor. It's not really widely used anymore, so we're just going to ignore that for now. PPM is parts per million. It's a bit more widely used than CF, but it's not, in my opinion, a great source of measurement because your EC pen or your EC truncheon will take a measurement of electrical conductivity and convert it to PPM. The conversion is up on my left here, so you can see it's a little bit technical. Now, PPM stands for parts per million, and it measures the TDS, total dissolved solids. And it's not accurate because to get TDS or PPM, you'd have to have a chemical analysis done. The PPM 500 scale is based on the KCl content of your solution, and KCl is potassium chloride. PPM 700 is based on NaCl, sodium chloride. Again, it's a lot of analysis required to get a very accurate PPM. But we've got EC, electrical conductivity, and it measures how much the salts conduct the electricity in your solution. And any conversions or any PPM readings are based off EC. Scientific labs around the world use EC, and it's what we choose to use at NPK. So try not to get too confused. If you do use PPM, as I walk away, we're going to leave a conversion table behind me, and you can start to see the EC or the CF or the PPM and what you should be aiming for. So we're going to get behind the desk with Barry and show you how to calibrate and clean, the important part of looking after your hardware. So just a short one today, Barry, but it's very important. pH and EC meters and how to get the best from them, how to clean them, how to look after them, and some top tips.
You'd have to use the best. That's the top tip.
Yes, Bluelab is the best. Yeah. Not just because they're a partner, we chose them as a partner because they're the best. If you don't believe us, look at the recent edition of Garden Culture where they achieved 79% in the UK as the most used pH and EC pens. So phenomenal pieces of kit. And also the stand's pretty nice as well, isn't it?
Every shop's got one of them those days. That's just exclusive to us.
Oh, I thought it was.
No.
Have you seen the mobile phone holder in the front?
No, it's not. Don't mess about that. It's not.
Okay, so let's start with pH. First thing with pH, what do you do when you get out the box?
Have a good look at it, admire it.
Like it's such a nice piece of kit.
Yeah, look at it.
It is. I like the colours, blue and white, nice and simple.
Do you like
Scientific pieces of equipment. What is the first thing you do when you get a pH pen out?
Calibrate it.
Calibrate it. So, tell me what's wrong with this pH pen before we calibrate that, because that's an old one.
What have you done?
That's just not been looked at. It's not been looked after properly. Can you spot what's wrong with it?
It's dry.
If it dries, what happens?
Dies.
It dies.
Dies.
So don't let your pH probe dry. Always keep it in some pH probe refill and storage. That's my top tip. Before we get into calibrating, if there is any issues with your pH pen, fill it up, fill up a little jar, leave it for 24 hours, and it should sort most issues. Pierce the top. Spill some everywhere.
It's always making a mess.
This is KCl solution, potassium chloride solution, and that's it. That's your probe. Now that's going to rehydrate the probe, recalibrate the fluids within the pH probe, and hopefully that'll sort that pH pen out. So we'll come back to that tomorrow, and hopefully it fixes it. But we've got a new one.
Oh, you just love it, don't you?
I love just throwing things
And
out.
you'll just leave that there for days and days and days,
For you?
won't you? Not for me, mate.
Calibrating, what's the first thing that we need to do?
pH 7.
pH 7. So your pH pen, if you use Bluelab, will have a little tick on it. That means that it's calibrated, but it doesn't come out of the box calibrated. So when you buy it from the shop, ask the shop if they wouldn't mind to calibrate your pen for you. And it's really simple. First of all, you drop it in pH 7 buffer solution. Now the key with calibrating your pen is patience. It doesn't happen quickly. It can take up to 4 to 5 minutes to properly calibrate your pen. And you've got to wait for the figure to settle for maybe even a minute. If it moves up or down, it's still finding its right balance. So we've calibrated this pen already, and it's on 6.8. We'll probably get that to 6.9. So what we do, it's settled on 6.8. You hold the calibrate button. And these new ones, they now take about
zeros,
15 seconds to calibrate, because the old ones, you press calibrate and sometimes you pull it out too quick and it wouldn't calibrate properly. So now it takes about 10 seconds to fully adjust to 7. And we're nearly there. And once it's adjusted to 7, it'll say it's done. You give it a little wash in some water. Once it's properly done, like I say, patience. A little wash in some water, flick it out everywhere.
You best cut that out, lad.
And then into 7. So once that's settled on 7, give it a little rinse.
Give it a wipe. Don't be flicking it.
And then put it into your pH buffer 4 solution. And again, you're going to leave that there for about 4 or 5 minutes. Make sure it hits as close to 4 as it's going to get. And then you do the same. Press the calibrate button and that's done.
So how long does it roughly last?
The calibration will last a month before the tick goes.
So it's not on the usage of it?
No, it's not an usage. You could use it 10 times a day and it won't uncalibrate it. You could use it once, the tick will still go after a month. So the tick going doesn't mean that it's not calibrated. It just means that it could do with the calibration and it wants to it'd like to be calibrated again. Yeah. So we've settled on 4.2. Again, you'll probably show a bit more patience than that. Maybe wait a little bit longer, see if it gets down to 4.1. But we'll calibrate at 4.2. Let it do its thing, and then your pen is ready to go. Put it back in the box, and you're happy days. I'm going to show you something with the cap of the pH pen. Patience. You've got to wait for it to be done, Barry. Stop being so eager just to move on to the next subject. And see it itching to talk about this cap and how beautifully designed it is. And we're done.
And is it on 4?
And it's all happy days. So we give it a rinse, flick it off on the floor.
On the floor.
And what's in the bottom of that?
A little sponge.
Let's show them. Nice sponge in the bottom of the cap. What's that sponge for, Barry?
To keep it moist.
Do you like it moist?
I love it moist.
Good. So does the pH probe. So you have pH probe refill and storage. Be ideal to get a pipette. Pipette some out, put some into your cap.
They are a good piece of kit. If you look after them, they will last you like
12 months guarantee.
I think
on
I've
these
got
things.
a EC truncheon that I've had for about 5 years now, and it's still going strong.
Well, that's a pH pen. Done, calibrated, cleaned. Our pH pen here is in the KCl solution, so that'll hopefully fix itself. When you need to clean your pH probe, so let's fast forward to tomorrow. This has done its job. Put it in some water. Sometimes, to get the most from your pH pen, you've got to clean it. And what the Bluelab offer? pH probe cleaner. So what you do, click it open, squirt a tiny amount onto the actual probe, get your Colgate brush. So this is Aqua Fresh. We couldn't afford we couldn't afford Colgate. No. We haven't got enough money. The full kit, the full cleaning kit comes with.
It's only cheap that as well, though, isn't it? How much is the full cleaning kit? Comes in the little blue zipper, doesn't it?
Yeah, the exact RRP price will come up on screen. So just give that a little clean. You know, if you look after your pieces of kit, they'll look after you, and they'll last twice as long. If you abuse your pieces of kit, even with Bluelab, they will abuse you, and they will last only 6 months. Once that's been cleaned, give it a little rinse, back in the water, make sure your cap has got storage fluid in it, and that's you done. If you do that once a month, so clean it, calibrate it, put the cap back on.
You'd have it 48 months later.
You'll have it 48 months later. So that's basically pH pens done and dusted.
Yeah,
now, you said to me you had an EC pen or trunction for how long?
I think it's coming on to 5 years now.
5 years.
I look after me kit.
Well, if you don't know what an EC trunction is, that is the fine piece of kit. That is the EC trunction. Well, for new growers, I'd say it was pH.
Would it?
Yeah. But for me, I like EC.
I like EC. I'd
So-
leave me pH. If it was me, if I had to pick one of them instruments.
Yeah, the reason
I'd pick
being
EC.
because base nutrients, most base nutrients now will be formulated so that it'll take your tap water from 7 and take it down to a rough pH of about 6.
Yeah.
Canna base nutrient does that really well. It's got a lot of acid in it, but it's got the right amount of acidic components to it to take from 7 to 6, and that's why new growers have real good success with Canna, because it just does your pH for you. EC, I'd probably be more inclined to measure EC if I had to choose one, because you can really steer your plant growth. If it's too hot, you reduce your EC. If it's a bit cold, you can increase your EC, and you can really steer your plant. And you can feed more when it wants it, you can feed less.
And it saves you a fortune in feed.
It does, rather than just doing 40 mil, 40 mil, 40 mil. You can really direct your feed. So 30 mil in early stages, maybe a bit more in the later stages when it wants it, and you're all good to go. Show me your EC pen trunction, Barry.
This isn't actually my one, but this is one that we
No,
have in our
don't just
museum.
lie. That's actually Barry's EC trunction. Look at that. I don't even think Bluelab can remember making that, but that is a Bluelab.
If you want to buy it back, just phone me.
What were they called back in the day? New Zealand, made in New Zealand.
Everyone used to call them a feed wand. That's how I
feed wand.
remember them, a feed wand.
Hydroponics International Limited, New Zealand. They were the original Bluelab EC trunctions. And guess what?
Handle it with care. Don't be
I'm
messing
actually not
with
going to bend down there. That will look wrong. Pick that bucket of water up for me.
That bucket of water.
That bucket of water.
Bucket of water.
Does it work? 20 years later,
Look at it.
it's still going.
Strong.
That's what you get when you buy Bluelab. Strong, reliable pieces of kit that can last up to 20 years.
I honestly reckon they buy that back. I don't reckon Bluelab have got one of them.
Don't you think? It's been really well looked after as well. So, how do you look after your Bluelab EC trunction? Your Bluelab cleaning kit comes with one of these scouring pads, and also with some conductivity probe cleaner. It's really simple. Rinse it in some water. Don't touch it with your fingers. Put a tiny amount on. And then just gently clean the 2 carbons there. What those are, you see the metal there is a temperature. It'll take the temperature as well, so which will help give an accurate reading of what the EC is. And the 2 sort of carbon points there, pads, they will assess how well your water conducts electricity. The more nutrients you put in, which are salty, the quicker it will conduct electricity. The less salts, it won't conduct electricity.
So if it's got no salts in it.
It won't say anything. Like we showed last week.
No, if it's got no salts in it,
Yeah.
you can't get electrocuted.
That is true, but we can't really say that on the YouTube show. Why? Because what people will do is they'll jump in the bath
with
full
the
of RO water with the toaster, say, well, Barry said I could jump in the bath, it wouldn't electrocute me. And what he forgets is the salts from his body could electrocute him. But no, that's a true fact. If you have completely RO water, you can't get electrocuted because there's no salts to conduct the electricity. So that's had a good clean. Rinse that off. Rinse that off in water, give it a good flick, and put the shroud. What a fancy word for that piece of plastic. Put the shroud back on. The shroud should always stay on unless you're cleaning. And away you go. ready to take your EC measurements. The EC junctions really don't need calibrating, but if you're adamant on wanting to check how accurate it is, you get conductivity standard, 2.76 millisiemens per centimetre, and then you can put the EC junction into this water, but we've run out of containers to hold this, so you just have to trust me. But the EC junctions, the reason that they're so good is, have you ever calibrated one?
I've never calibrated one.
I've never calibrated one. That's probably never been calibrated.
Do you know what I'm gonna...
They don't need to be calibrated.
Nah, that's never been calibrated, you know. It's just been kept clean.
Yeah. If you look after your pieces of kit...
And I've tested it against new ones, and it's the same. It
reads the same. So, they are the essential pieces of kit for EC and pH. Up on Barry's right, though, we have another piece of kit. It is the combo meter. The combo meter is for people that want portability. Yeah. You're going to look that up.
That's
and see
like
if that's
flexi tanks and stuff like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you've got all them, you'd use one of them.
Multiple flexi tanks. Take the combi meter, you move around, it measures water temperature, EC and pH all in one. Requires 2 batteries, and exactly the same, you'll clean the EC part of the probe, and you'll also clean the pH probe, exactly the same.
And it just, you calibrate it the same, don't you?
You calibrate it exactly the same, yeah. And they're really good piece of kit. You've got, again, 12 months warranty. And just as reliable as the trunction or the pH pen. You can also get EC pens as well. If they're about £80 RRP, you get the EC pen for about £70, but most people end up going for these because
that's
you can stay water as well. And it flashes blue as well, so if you're in a bit of a dark room, it helps you with
the
readings.
They do another one as well, don't they? What's that, Guardian?
The Guardian, that's next level. So on my left, there's the Guardian. Now that's if you're doing something like deep water culture, DWC. The Guardian has got a green backlit LED. You mount it to the wall and it constantly shows pH, EC, water temperature, and it's got an alarm setting as well. So if your pH or EC goes above or below what you set it at, then it'll silent alarms, it'll flash. So when you walk into your room, you'll know that it's gone above or below the parameters that you set. Really good piece of kit. For the more extravagant out there, and I'll say the more industrial, you can actually get pH peridoses.
Yeah, I've seen them.
Yeah,
and you can add on and on.
Add on and on and on. So with that type of kit, we're going to actually get a special guest in, and it's not going to be on the YouTube show, but we're going to announce something right now. We're doing short 4-minute videos on exactly how to use the technical pieces of equipment, because I don't think there's much information out there.
On doses?
On doses, on all kinds.
I'd like to see one of them doses in full flow.
Yeah.
Doing pH up, pH down, nutrients, everything.
Exactly. Then the next step from there is the I'm going to call it the multitronic, dosatronic, all singing, all dancing, does EC, does pH, does everything. And you can basically, it's for the industrial guys, they'll set it up, they'll set the parameters, and it'll just adjust pH and it'll adjust EC. You hook it up to your base nutrients, you hook it up to pH down, and it just does it all for you.
That's what I'm talking about. It's like a lazy man's game.
So what, you can just sit at home watching X Factor?
Put my feet up, Love Island.
And I was going to say Love Island and dip you in there. Dip you in.
Yeah, I think I watch it, but I don't.
You do?
I don't.
You do?
I don't.
Listen, he does. He watches Love Island.
I don't.
Anyway, what's another piece of kit that I'm forgetting? The Bluelab Connect.
Yeah.
So what this does, you've got a USB dongle, and you can be anywhere in the world, and you can see what your pH or your EC or your water temperatures are. Obviously, they're a bit more expensive, but they're great for greenhouses, great for scientific labs. Scientifical? There's another word I've just made up.
Scientists making words up again.
There you go. We always do. Scientific labs. We sell a lot to scientific labs all across the world, and they absolutely love them. And they really like the high quality pieces of kit. So if they can be impressed, I'm sure you'll be impressed. Do you want to give a quick lowdown on pH? We did it last week when we talked about the quality water part 1. But basically pH 5.5 to 6.3 is perfect for most media.
I always set mine at 5.5.
Yeah. And what I'm going to do, we're going to throw something up on the screen here to show how you should dose EC very roughly. So when you start young, 0.2 to 0.5, start them like I'm talking inch plants. And as they get older, you give them a bit more feed. You peak out around week 5, peak of flower when they're producing fruit, and you start dropping off. Like your nan and granddad, tea and biscuits.
How did I know you were going to say that?
It's my favourite shout.
That's his favourite shout. They're just like us. Baby deep rusks. then they eat KFC and Mackey's, and then they're in the nursing home eating tea and biscuits. It is though, isn't it?
Yeah, I wouldn't be giving them KFC and Mackey's though. I'd be giving them
Am I
the
allowed to say that on this?
finest. Well, we'll just send a parcel to KFC and McDonald's and get free food for the rest of the month.
Yeah,
That's what it's about, isn't it?
let's hope so.
Right. We're going to head back upstairs. It was only a short episode today, but hopefully you've got an idea about how to calibrate, how to clean your equipment, how to look after it, and we're going to go back upstairs and finish off the episode. So see you upstairs. Let's go. Right, just as Barry goes upstairs, there's some troubleshooting that we need to go through. When you use your meter, if you're trying to mix your solution and the meter doesn't give you a reading, pull it out, leave it for 3 to 5 seconds, and then put back in the solution, and it should give you a reading then. If the trunction doesn't light up though, after you've re-dipped it, then you might need to give it a clean, like we've just shown you. And if that doesn't work, you're gonna have to change the batteries. But do not use rechargeable batteries, as they don't work with Bluelab products. And lastly, if the trunction you feel is giving you a low EC reading, then just give it a clean. The EC trunction's a really hardy piece of kit, and basically it either needs a clean or it needs new batteries, and that's it. For your pH meters, it's all about care and sensitivity. Don't drop it, try not to touch the glass probe with your fingers, and again, like we showed, sometimes it just takes a good clean, and if that's still not working, give it a 24-hour soak in potassium chloride solution, and that should solve it.
Stephen!
He's calling me, I've got to go. Let's finish the episode. I'm coming. Just so impatient.
It's not the science to get up the stairs, isn't it?
I love a good bit of science.
Counting the steps back to front and upside down and everything.
XY coordinates. You enjoyed today's episode though, didn't you?
It was good, mate. It
was good. All about the hardware, the EC, the pH. You like a good... You like a good bit of hardware.
Yeah, I do.
You do. You're going to love next week's episode even more. It's all about the media, not social media. We do love a bit of social media, but your cocoa, soil, pebbles, everything you need to what you're going to grow in.
So what we're hands-on building.
It would look at extraction methods, how to measure proper EC and pH when you're in soil or cocoa, 1 to 1.5 extraction methods.
Whoa. That's a bit sciencey for me, that, you know, mate.
Well, it is the NPK Show Scientific Hydroponics.
Yeah, but it's not me, is it?
No.
I build.
I haven't really got anything for you to build.
I've got something I'm going to build.
What are you building?
Do you know season 2?
Yeah.
Sorry, episode 2.
Yeah, we were at Autopot.
Who with?
Jason.
Did you see his chilies?
Yes, I did see his chilies. Did he pay you to say this?
We got chilies like that.
Because he's got a lovely room.
Yeah, and we haven't at the minute, have we?
No, we haven't.
So, I'm going to build us one.
Yes.
Yes.
Build us a sick room. What are you going to do?
Full closed loop.
Full closed loop? CO2?
Everything.
Extraction?
Everything. You can put all the science in.
Yeah.
I'll build you.
So I'll tell them how to do the closed loop and you're going to build the closed loop.
Build it. I've got just a man.
Okay. Well, when are we going to start?
Tomorrow.
You're going to start tomorrow?
I'm going to start tomorrow.
So episode 5?
No. It's going to take me a few weeks, this, you know.
It's a big project.
Pulling a big rabbit out of a little lad.
Okay. Sound. All right, we'll leave it with me then. You go and do what you need to do. I'm going to carry on with the rest of the episodes. We're going to get really into the science.
Don't bore them with too much science, though.
I'll try not to.
Make sure.
I'll see you in a bit.
In a bit.
See you in a few weeks. Right, so Barry's off. He loves to build. He's going to go and build an amazing closed room system, and hopefully we'll get to see it by the end of the season. Next week, it's media. It's with me, Stay Scientific Hydroponics. I'm going to be looking at extraction methods for how to measure your EC, your pH, how to grow in cocoa, soil, pebbles, whatever your bag is, we've got the right media for you. So stay tuned, subscribe. Thank you very much for watching so far. Any comments for today's episode, leave them below, and we'll see you next Friday, 6 o'clock for the media. See you next week.